begin? I guess.
There's so much to digest with it.
I'm gonna say first and foremost, this movie's not as bad as I thought it would be.
So
It's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not terrible.
That big pharmaceutical company?
I think that there are certain choices in there where I can see the vision.
I don't get to see her much.
Um,
Hopefully you'll get to see her again soon.
I think that some of the casting is done really well.
So where's your dad?
Obviously, Neil
I liked
McDonough.
he was a great
Um,
cast member.
He's
I'll give my praise to McDonough
Both of
now.
my parents are gone.
Great job,
It's
Neil
just me and
McDonough.
my brother.
You were the best actor on the screen. You played Birkin very well.
It means we've got something in common.
You
That's a good
knew
thing, right?
when to throw in full force acting chops. You committed completely in every scene. Great work.
Okay.
The man's experience knows.
Yeah.
And we mean that in a
So-
good way.
Yeah. So I also want to give credit to Claire, which I'll refer to them by their character names.
Yeah.
Claire,
All right.
adult Claire, she
There we
did
go.
great. I think that she has a lot of good, solid acting chops available to her. I think that she could do a really good job. Same with Chris. I think Chris, he could do a pretty good acting job. I think he would do really well as like somebody who's like if you were to do another round of Tom Cruise in the acting scene, but he just needs a little more experience before
Yeah.
he could get to that point. But yeah,
know
like
who
I could see him
him-
doing a lot of like young Tom Cruise style roles.
You know who I could potentially see him as in Resident Evil almost alternatively is if they were ever to like, and I say this potentially is potentially I could see him also almost being of Piers 6, because Piers is supposed to be pretty young also. And I'm not going more off of look, but more that younger angry energy, kind of younger energy. I don't know. I feel like there's something to him that I'm like, if he wasn't playing a young Chris, I could see him playing a young Piers, especially if you have him against an actor who's playing now, because by that game, Chris is in his like 30s, 40s. So an older actor cast as Chris, basically playing the Chris Senior, and Piers is sort of like not just mentee, but also his second.
Yeah.
But I could kind of see him pulling that off. You'd have to cast the older Chris like right to get like the good to get the right chemistry against it, but I feel like he could
Yeah.
potentially.
I think that Claire is great. I think that Chris is great. I think that obviously Birkin is great. I think that the guy who played Leon, I think he did a decent job. I think he did decent enough that he fits with the level of the script. And that's not a diss on him.
Yeah.
I think that with a little work and experience, I think he would be decent enough to continue doing a lot of acting jobs, and I think that he'll be all right.
Room for growth as an actor, and we say that in a good way.
Yes, I absolutely say that in a good way. Same with Jill. I think that she will do good in a lot of roles. She just needs to practice over time. I think that okay.
Yeah, I think your audio is playing through.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
we were hearing our own audio for a moment.
Oh crap! Sorry. I thought I muted that.
I think that Leon and Jill, and I'm gonna also say Chris. I think that those three are miscast in this. I think that their energy and their capabilities befit a different genre of film. Maybe they could still do horror if they were interested in horror, but I don't think this kind of horror is it for them as far as like the energy and what's going on.
Do you feel like their energy more fits like a kind of Nightmare on Elm Street world? Like I almost could see like a Nightmare on Elm Street, a Friday
They
the
would
13th type
they would
energy.
do really well in a Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got that energy to them. I think that they would fit very well in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Wesker. I I've I've shared my
Wesker.
thoughts extensively on him, but I want to reiterate.
Tom Hopper for Barry Burton prequel film.
Yes. Barry Burton, young Barry Burton, played by Tom Hopper, in his own movie about him starting off as a rookie and growing into the role that he is meant to be. And then you can get to the point where he first meets Chris and Jill, and that's the end of the movie.
You could
And
almost
you
have
know
that
what?
as a credit scene of him meeting Chris or something at the first time. It's almost like
Yeah,
that's
you
how
could
unessential. It's like that's how unessential what we know, typically associate with Resident Evil is actually to telling a prequel Barry Burton story.
yeah, and like you could do that. You could make it a credit scene. In fact, that's probably better. Is like you have the
Yeah.
ending, you cut to credits, and then you have credit scene. Here he comes through the doors of RPD, and he's ready to rock and roll. And he sees this young Chris Redfield and young Jill Valentine. He's like, "Oh man, all right, I
I love
guess I
it
got to
because I
deal with
love the
them."
fact that you could do the whole movie and it literally you could pretty much market and do the whole movie as really nothing to do with Resident Evil, and it's almost like it's an aside. It's an Easter egg almost. Like there's maybe bits of hints if somebody goes, "Wait, I see umbrella something in the background. Is this supposed to be a like if you don't know Resident Evil, that's okay. It doesn't matter. Like you don't have to know
Yeah,
a damn thing about Resident Evil to watch that film." That's how
yeah,
like which means also you got to go to all the people who like have to license the Resident Evil and go, "Look, this isn't actually a Resident Evil film per se. It is because it's in that universe, and we will give one bit of hint. But we're not bringing zombies. We're not bringing monsters. We're not bringing evil pharmaceutical companies, weaponsmithing. This is a cop movie or
yeah.
whatever, or something like, yeah.
So I don't know much about Chief Irons, so I can't really speak to the character. However,
He's a creepo who abducts
Let's
women
save
and
character
taxes.
for the next.
Oh, okay.
I say let's save character for the next topic, like because as an actor, I think I see where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
however, the guy's name, the actor's name is Donald Logg, like dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I know people have stage names and stuff, and I'm pretty sure that's probably his real name.
Yes, I believe that is his real name.
He either needs to change it to dialogue in full commit or change his name to something else entirely. Donald Logg is like he didn't quite commit to
just one correction,
dialogue.
Dave. It is Logue. It is Logue. Donald Logue.
Donald Logue. Still
but
close
if you
enough
don't know
to dialogue.
that, then yeah, if you don't know that too, that's the hardest part. Is on paper we don't necessarily see pronunciation.
Yeah, I don't know how that's pronounced, so I assumed it was log, like dialogue, because that's what it looks like. It looks like dialogue.
You know
but
who
he's
he
not.
looks like
But he's
out
not
of makeup?
committing.
You know who he looks like out of makeup? Oh my gosh.
Would you like
Big
to know
Lebowski,
some of his credits,
that actor,
by the way?
He looks like, if you look him up, like he looks just like what's his name who played the lead in Big Lebowski.
You're talking about not Jeff Daniels.
The guy from
the other one.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember his last name.
I know.
Why am I forgetting his
name? Whenever I remember his name,
Jeff Bridges.
I always forget
Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
Thank you. He looks literally all the photos. The first photos Google pulled up of him, I'm like, damn, he looks like Jeff Bridges. Except I couldn't.
Whenever I remember Jeff Bridges' name, I forget who Jeff Daniels' name is, and vice versa. I don't know why.
I mean, I just completely forgot Jeff Bridges' name, so there we go.
So helicopter guy and guy in hallway who dies near Chris don't matter. Lisa, I'm very confused by the choices with Lisa. I don't know why they wrote her that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that they can't make like little changes here and there or something like that to like be interesting, but like Lisa's not a good guy. I'm sorry.
Ew. Lisa
She's
is like literally out to get everybody.
she
Be
she
mad at
is
the world.
she's a monster who wants to murder,
Yeah.
and like there is no mercy.
Well, the virus
Um
is in the game story. The virus basically takes away her humanity is just gone. Also,
yeah.
because she's so young when she's infected and experimented on. So there's also, to me, there's a suggestion of developmental impairment because of the
Yeah.
experiments they did on her.
Yeah. Um okay.
Okay.
Let's see here.
So if you wanted to know the short filmography of Donald Logue, he was the lead actor on Grounded for Life from 2001 to 2005. I think he was the dad on that show. He
Okay.
Around that same period, he was also playing an off again, on again role on the latter portion of ER as Chuck Martin. He is Lee Toric on Sons of Anarchy, which I remember tended to get. I never watched it. I've heard people liked it. He was also
Yeah.
on
So
Vikings as Horik.
He's done a
I've
lot of
I've
offhand, like, sort
seen
of TV show roles, it
Oh yeah,
sounds like.
I've
and
seen SOA.
and if you like cheesy bullshit, he was also Gotham's Harvey Bullock in Fox on Gotham on Fox.
Oh,
Oh, that's why he's
okay.
familiar. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
could
that's
complain
where I've
about that
seen
show
him.
all day long.
We'll save
Um,
that for another discussion.
yeah,
He was
we'll
also the
put a
lead.
pin in that.
He was also the lead in The Tao of Steve from 2000.
No
That
idea.
seems, yeah, I
Um,
never heard of that.
It's
okay,
it's a romantic comedy of some type.
okay.
Oh,
So,
well, that's why I've
so,
not heard of it.
so, I would say the core cast overall, good job. I think some of them they don't quite fit in this kind of movie in particular, but I do see at least potential for them as actors. And I think as they continue forward with performance and practice, they will get better and they will have stronger roles and they will be stronger themselves and it'll be great. Like they'll
Mhm.
do fine. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
I think
objectively,
that,
nobody is. I would say that was my, if anything, all my complaints, none of them really have to do with the acting
yeah,
at
I just want
all.
to,
Objectively,
start,
everybody's a decent actor.
I just want to start this sandwich with a good part.
That is a
Um,
very good part. Yeah.
and
Oh, I
going
love a
through like
sandwich.
going through the rest of the cast as well, just real quick. Um, they're doing about the level that I think that they're at. Which
Mhm.
there are a lot of um extras and background performers who aren't quite ready to take on minor roles yet, and they exist in this movie. I would say that most of them are in this movie. I think that the nurse probably just didn't have enough to do as far as like what the script has, so she couldn't really like have a full on scene where she's doing a thing.
Yeah.
And same with the waitress. I feel like the waitress, I think if she had a little more to do, she might be able to express herself a little more as an actor.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're maybe
Um,
if you're not as experienced or not doing as much, and I can't speak to the level of experiences those have, but you know, if you're only on screen for a short moment, sometimes balancing of what's the right amount to deliver performance wise for a role that is maybe never intended to be beyond like a few lines in one scene.
yeah. Um, uh, the mom, Mama Birkin, I think she was okay, but she didn't really have anything to do. She was just kind of there to be like, William, William, William,
This
what are
was
you
not the
doing?
Annette Birkin of the games.
And then she grabs a gun and gets shot in the head.
Oh
Um,
boy.
and as far as the children actors, I don't really normally talk about child actors. And the reason I don't talk about child actors is because they're children. And when you get them in front of a camera, a lot of children get kind of like nervous or self conscious or something like that. And so, in the environment where they would normally just naturally play and act and stuff like that, which is like the prime thing that a lot of actors go for, because that's like the freest that one can be as far as performance. Um, it doesn't really show on screen in front of a camera because the children usually it's like a case of being self-conscious and thinking that they're being judged or something like that.
Well, it's
Um,
why I think it's much more of a novel thing and a standout thing when you get a performance from a child that really is like, it's why it was a big deal when it's been such a big deal when children have been nominated for Oscars, because that's a level of performance that you usually don't see from that lack of experience, because, they're also
right,
developing. And so there's a lot of emotional development that happens that most actors, I would say, informs how they eventually developed as an actor, but they've already gone through, whereas kids are going through that as
right,
actors, which makes it very, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, child performances tend to look a lot in the same realm, but it's just called look. They physically have not been around as long.
right. Like,
There's not a lot biologically that has happened yet.
right. Like I would talk about Haley Joel Osment, right?
Mhm.
Because he, even as a little kid, pulled off amazing performances.
He was a
Like
standout. Yeah.
he was at the upper end of the bell curve. He was switched on from the word go.
Yeah.
Um, but most child actors, they range from like to and it's not worth talking about.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not.
it's kind of like it's like what? What are you gonna say? Like, if somebody wants to sit there and go, "Oh, this performance was terrible." Well, you know, this kid's got a fraction of the age of everybody else there who've had full careers and all the trial and error to figure it out. So it's more of a big deal, I feel like, when you get a standout performance, because it is like, wow, you managed that without all the extra experience that some of us had. And that almost comes down to almost a genetic level of just some people are built a little bit differently, but it's not a commonality. It's like the typical status quo is you still got to learn the
Yeah.
way most
They're
of us do.
yeah, they're a kid, so like it's
Yeah.
whatever. So I
Yeah.
don't really comment about child actors
They have
generally.
plenty of space to
Um
grow.
yeah. So I think that's so all right. I'll talk a little bit about the characters, but I'm wrapping the characters into the writing.
There is a writing
Um
question I have, and I think it's a fairly obvious one.
okay.
Why in God's name did they think it was a good idea to make 1 and 2 together as one single narrative happening simultaneously?
I think they
Never thought
had
on that.
something in mind where they wanted all these characters to kind of just be shown simultaneously. And the best way they thought about it, which if you're going to do it, I kind of think doing it this way works, and I'll get to that. Where they go, okay, the team's assembled. Now we got to split them up. Well, we know Resident Evil 1 has these characters and Resident Evil 2 has these characters. So you group over there, says the chief, take a helicopter and get out of here. You group over here, you're staying here at RPD and I'm leaving because what else am I going to do? Um, Probably get assaulted by umbrella foot soldiers who all look like Hunk. And then Leon goes, "Who's Hunk?" And he's like, "Bye," and drives off. Right.
Yeah.
Um, and so then they play out roughly like the quickest version of each game that an hour and 40 minutes can afford. Uh, Minus the time to get to Raccoon Police Department. Um, and so they got to split that time up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I say, if you're going to do that, it should be a series. It should be a series of like 10 to 12 episodes. And
Yes.
then you knock it out. And then you got the first two wrapped up. And then if there's audience interest for the next one, then you look at three. And that's great, right? Then you can kind of expand it a little more. Or you look at like four and expand it, et
I
cetera,
was gonna say,
right? So with them doing this, it's super duper quick. So you get rid of all the puzzles. Because look, Lisa handing over 4 sets of keys and they only use 1 key is not a puzzle.
That's not.
It's
No.
it's just we need to get to the next part because we don't have enough runtime. It's the writing in it, you can feel that there's so much that they have to cover, that they can't cover everything, and they have to strip everything, and they have to boil it down to the most bare bone essential thing possible for each bit.
Yeah.
And the problem with that becomes that you just have them go, okay, Claire arrives in RPD or in Raccoon City. Then she meets up with everybody, and then they all go their separate ways, and then everybody gets into the mansion in Resident Evil 1, and they kind of mess around for like 5 minutes in the hallways, and then they find where the hidden lab is and blow up Birkin. Whereas we go over to 2, and Leon and Claire are just kind of messing around a little bit until they get to the lab, and then they kill Birkin and rescue the little girl, and then they all go home. Um, and there's this whole like side plot that doesn't really do anything, where Claire is adopted. She's at the orphanage, and she's like, I'm in the orphanage, and there's this weird zombie girl who people I guess think is a ghost, but like she's not. Um and her name
Why
is
is this
Lisa.
movie?
And
Why
it's
is
like
this movie?
it's like, what are we doing here? What is the point of this? And the point of this is because Claire needs the keys later on that Lisa's gonna have, because we can't just leave keys laying around on a table. It's
Yeah.
got to be Lisa
Keys
gets
just
the
randomly
one.
laying around in Resident Evil?
Lisa
Perish the thought.
Lisa gets the one I'm cool scene where she does a backflip around a liquor and breaks its neck head in half.
Which, if they'd still played her as a villain, that would have made her fucking terrifying, because I completely can get on board with Lisa is powerful enough to kill a licker.
Like, okay, look, all right, hang with me here for a second. They're running around in a hallway. It doesn't have to be that hallway, right? And then I forget who it is. I think it's Chief Irons gets licked up, right? And then
Licky lick.
the liquor pops down, knocks one person to the side. I forget which one it was. I think it was Claire. But then Leon's like, I'm gonna shoot it. And then as it's about to pounce, because it doesn't care about Leon's bullets, here comes Lisa off the top rope and smashes its brain skull. And then she looks at him, and then he's like, I don't think I can handle this. And he starts running. Like he grabs Claire as Claire's scrambling back up to his side, and then they start running, and then you have a chase scene, right?
See, that would be, yeah, and to me
And
that
then
would
you
be,
can make it exciting to where like she's looking for them, and they notice the keys, right? They notice the keys and they're like, oh, there's the keys. And at least this one lock that we can barely see. Or better yet, they see the keys and they know that it's somewhere in this building. And Lisa's stuck in the hallway. And so they're like, we got to make a distraction of some kind. Well, what is she like? I don't know. Maybe she likes lemons, right? And so they find a lemon stuffy, and they throw the plush lemon down the hallway, and it makes a little squeaky sound. And then she starts chasing, and then they quiet run behind her. You know what I mean? Like not quite running,
yeah.
but trying to move fast and silent.
Look
They
at
grab the
distraction. Let's
keys.
sneak behind you fast.
They grab the keys, but they grab the keys too excitedly, and it makes a little jingle. And then as Lisa's holding the little stuffy lemon, her head snaps up and she's looking in that direction. And so they know they're on limited time. So they run and they dive into a classroom where they see a picture of a spade, heart, club, and diamond, and they're like, "Ah, this must be it. Go in, right?" And then
I
as
love how
Lisa
you remember
screams and
these are the
starts,
keys.
Yeah.
well, they're common. So as Lisa runs and screams and
It is
starts,
the force what's it?
yeah, and starts galloping down the hallway like this, right? Making like really scary, like intense sounds. They're scrambling to like get the key right, right? And then as they open the door and start to go in, Lisa appears in the doorway and starts galloping toward the door, to which they have to like slam it closed, hold it closed, and then use one of the other keys on the other side to lock it.
And they have to
Much
go through
better
all the keys to
scene.
find the one. Yeah, yeah. Well, and it definitely
I just wrote a much better scene in like
you
2
did.
minutes.
You did. You wrote it off the top of your head. You
Yes.
spitballed a better scene. Yeah.
Also, other scenes that I'm going to complain about. But if you want to add to that, please go ahead first, because I'll move on otherwise.
And not to that scene, but I do. It's interesting because my thoughts on the writing specifically. Here's where I think the big problem lies in the writing or in the story, in the film as itself. They wrote for nostalgia. They wrote because what's the complaint that, and I say this a little bit judgmentally because it bothers me about the fandom that people, every time a movie comes out, get so dead set on, you didn't do this, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do that. Well, yeah, that was in the game, but this is a movie. And if the movie's
Mhm.
trying to market to a bigger audience and also trying to create a story, not everything from the games translates to a movie. And if the movies don't say they're doing a direct adaptation of a certain game, then are they beholden to including every little thing? And there's so much in Resident Evil that it's like, I like it when a story is true to the characters and it doesn't necessarily have to, like, unless they're telling me direct adaptation. But this one favored nostalgia so much and was so hooked on getting every little of getting Lisa, of getting the keys, of getting all these little things, of replicating. Let's show the Raccoon City Police Department. Let's show the mansion in a wide shot. They were so dead set on all these little nostalgic details. If everybody's going to love this, they love this. Oh, but we want to put more nostalgia in. So the first two games are so popular. Let's do both games. And at that point, it's like you've thrown narrative, actual storytelling out the window because both games 1 and 2 are complete whole narratives by themselves. And you're trying to that take place with different sets of characters in different time periods. The first game is taking place at like end of July. The second game is taking place at end of September. So they're taking place months apart with different characters in different locations. You've derailed the whole narrative because you're trying to say, and to me, it's my argument is this movie is trying to do way too much and is so focused on nostalgia, it's forgetting that nostalgia, if you really want to make a good movie that also is nostalgic, you really need to focus on the narrative first. And to that end, I'd have said they'd have done better to pick one game and tell that story and tell the fucking shit out of it, and it would have been amazing. Because
Yeah.
that would have been better than trying to cram in everything from both games. And also because in the process of doing it, they had to gut so many critical characters because they really one, I think the director has a thing for Claire because she gets the
Yeah.
closest to the game treatment of the entire thing. And frankly, the way they try to justify combining two games is by lynching the entire plot around Claire. Connecting Claire with Lisa is a direct attempt to tie Claire to the first game, even though she's never part of the first game. And so they're using
She's
that to
very
try to pull.
obviously the star.
Yeah, and the problem is they do it at the expense of all the other characters because now Wesker's not even an Umbrella employee. He's just a dumbass out for money. Leon isn't just a rookie cop. He's a rookie dumbass who needs Claire to help save his ass all the time, even though it's like, yes, he's a rookie, but at least the games you got the idea that Leon is a playable character, which on some level means he is capable, and frankly I will argue that should be more capable than Claire strictly because he has actually gone through academy, and I believe it is
And
canon
she's a
in the
random
games that he did.
college student.
And while she
I mean-
has Chris to have trained her, Leon, I believe, in canon is supposed to have graduated top of his class. So there is a measure of Leon should have some slightly higher degree of experience or ability and capability than Claire, because
Also,
that comes from a training point. Whereas Claire, you have street smarts. They gut the Claire and Chris relationship because, again, they do all this stuff in favor of bits of nostalgia thrown in, and they sacrifice plot and characters to do that, because no longer do you have Chris, who basically helped raise Claire after their parents died. You have more of a disconnected relationship where they don't even talk to each other, which I'm like, but the whole point of Claire going to Raccoon City in the second game is she hasn't heard from Chris.
Yeah.
She's worried about her brother. That's like the entire point of her going to Raccoon City. In fact, it's kind of come on, the joke of Chris, all you had to do was like send her a letter saying, I'm not going to be in Raccoon City, don't worry about me. And she'd have never shown up to Raccoon City in the first place. So come on. But it's gutting Wesker, gutting Leon. They do it all expense. I will note too, thing. When I saw that they'd announced Neil McDonough as Birkin, I was actually initially surprised. I didn't know about the Wesker casting. But way back when it was coming out, I was like, oh, I'd have thought he'd have made a really good Wesker, because he can play that kind of villain and he can do it really, really fucking well. Also, he is closer, even though he's older now, he still could play closer to the right age range for Wesker. And it was like, oh, he's Birkin. Well, I could see him doing that too. I could see him very easily doing that. The movie combines game Wesker into Birkin. I am absolutely convinced that they basically went, since we're gutting Wesker and casting Tom Hopper in this role and turning him into a bro, we're going to take all the traits that are the Wesker everybody knows and we're going to shove them on Birkin, because this becomes a much more nefarious Birkin. Whereas the Birkin we meet is a lot more unhinged and is a bit subservient to Wesker. Like, Wesker's the one in control, Birkin's the one who's a little out of control. And this time they just merged them into two characters. Let's toss out Annette and just make her some random lady he's married to. Let's gut all of Sherry Birkin. None of that shit. And I mean, again, I don't mind when things get cut for the sake of telling a story in a film. The Lord of the Rings is a perfect example, because I think those are beautiful films, but they had to make strategic decisions because they're like, what works in the book won't always work on the screen. Perfect example, Faramir. Faramir, one of the biggest beefs when Two Towers came out was everybody being like, why is Faramir taking the ring, saying he'll take the ring to Osgiliath? In the books, he straight up looks at Frodo and goes, I'm not going anywhere near it. I'm not touching it. But they made a good point when I remember watching behind the scenes and watching the film, and they made a good point that I recognized for me was, yes, that's the book, but the book has time to set up that Faramir is tempted by the ring and resists it. Whereas in the time frame they had in the movies, if they were to do that with Faramir, it would undermine the power of the ring, because the movies didn't have as much time to set up that Faramir truly is tempted. He just manages to resist temptation by basically saying, don't even bring it over to me. And, but in a film, in that time constraint, yeah, you have to make some of those sacrifices in order to tell the central narrative, the core narrative better and more effectively. And this movie, to me, got so caught up in let's put in every little nostalgic thing from Resident Evil that they forgot about telling a story. And that bothered me and made me mad watching it, because I'm like, I also enjoy the story and the characters in these games. It's like, I honestly could care less. I love the Mila Jovovich films, and honestly, I could care less about the nostalgia, because I enjoy the stories. So that's my little beef. That was much more creatively phrased when I first watched them. You heard me ranting so hard.
And I want to continue on that, because I was actually leading toward kind of what you were saying, which is that a lot of these shots are geared toward nostalgia. Yeah. They are. Some are very well done. For example, the first time that Chris sees a zombie in Resident Evil 1 with the cutscene, that was really well done.
That's a reasonable adaptation of a scene that's very iconic. I mean, they made sure to include it when they remade it for GameCube.
But then you have scenes like when we see the dog, and oh man, it's going to be zombie Doberman Pinscher. And we get the Doberman Pinscher as a zombie, but it doesn't do what you would expect it to do, which is to smash through a window, as in like a mansion window. It kind of smashes through a car window, but that feels like they were like, we can't afford to smash through a house window. What do we do? Well, we have this car.
Does it feel like, I have to ask, does it feel like, because in the games, I think one of the things that's really shocking about them is that you don't ever see kind of where the dogs come from. They just are. And so
Yeah.
it kind of makes them terrifying because they look familiar, but they're monsters.
Yeah.
And to me, it's the fact that one of the things that really undermines them in Welcome to Raccoon City is that they show the dog eating the entrails, and it's like you've just undermined, because this isn't just like Chekhov's gun in terms of a compelling thing. This is just like, well, we know that dog's gonna kill somebody.
Yeah.
It's like it's so obvious. It's like they're projecting it so obviously that it makes it completely underwhelming, because you're spending the entire movie going, at some point that dog is gonna go zombie and eat somebody.
So one of the things that I see constantly in this, because let me just, before I get to that, some of the shots in this movie are nostalgia, and it's done well, but I don't necessarily think that it should be in the movie.
I
Like
agree.
even the first zombie reveal to Chris, that scene, I think it's great, but I don't know if it should be in this movie.
Yeah.
I
I
think
would have
that
almost liked them to have done their own take on that.
yeah, I think that for what they're doing in this and how little time they have in this, that getting the cool shots, they linger too long on them.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my next thing, which is, this feels like oftentimes they linger too long on stuff because they don't know when to cut away. A lot of the things that they're doing in this movie, like for example, um the truck as it's driving towards RPD, they linger on it, and they linger on it, and they linger on it, um to the point where it kind of feels like if they would keep doing it, it would turn into Lancelot running at the castle in Holy Grail.
I was saying borders
Right.
on that. Yeah.
It gets a little near that, but they're not playing it for laughs like that. Because there's moments in there where you can tell it's supposed to be kind of funny, but it doesn't play well because the writing is bad.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that this scene is supposed to be funny, and I'll explain why as I go through it. So they linger on the truck, and the truck is going in, and they keep lingering on it, and they linger on Leon just like sleeping in RPD and stuff like that. The the thing that makes it work is if the truck smashes through RPD and stops in front of Leon while on fire. Because you don't necessarily have to have something explode. You can have it leak out a whole lot of whatever's inside of it, and it just be on fire.
Well, and
It
it
doesn't
lends a
have
compelling.
to explode.
Well, and in a more compelling way, it pays homage to scenes straight out of the second game without directly being any one. One, which is at the very beginning of the game when they get to Raccoon City, the way he and Claire get separated is the truck that is on fire with that driver crashes into them. Two, it pays homage to the helicopter crashing into the RPD. So in a way, if doing that would have been a more original way to pay homage to not one but two moments in the second game without
Yeah.
detracting from what's going on.
And it would have scared the shit out of Leon. And then you could have had the trucker guy not walking, running out and being like, "Rar, rar, I'm a zombie, rar, brains are over there," and he goes after Leon, and then Chief Irons shoots the guy because Leon is so startled and like, oh holy shit, what madness is going on,
And now
right?
Why
RPD
is
also
he
has
so
zombies
damn
crashing into it.
lackadaisical in that movie?
Yeah,
This is
it's
like a
like
stoned Leon, honestly.
really
it's kind of
is.
like, oh, you're talking about Leon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Leon.
I was
Man,
thinking
sorry.
of Chief Irons
Leon!
because the chief, and I chalk that up to Leon's actor
hmm
not being
The actor and the
100% committing, and I think
and
that
I
that's
think the instruction they
experience.
gave him also came down to they gutted the character so much
Yeah.
that I don't think they left that actor much to work with.
Yeah,
I feel
His
and
similar.
character is so he and Wesker were so critically gutted as
and and
characters.
Like
and
I don't I
I'll put a pin
mhm.
in that.
Like when I
Okay,
when
we'll
I
come
Um,
back to it. We'll come back to
okay,
it.
we'll come back to it. Okay.
so so they play these scenes, and these scenes last so long that it feels like they don't know how to edit it to make it snappy enough for what the scene should be.
Mhm.
And so you get scenes where it's like, why are we on this shot? Or you'll get scenes such as the scene where the zombie slowly walks into frame in the middle of the frame, turns and looks at the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and then gets shot by Chris, who then
Yeah.
appears in the frame but is not looking into the camera because he's a badass.
Mhm.
That scene has no purpose other than to feel like it's supposed to be a trailer shot,
Yeah.
but they're keeping
There
it
were
in the movie rather than having
well,
it be solely for the trailer.
one a lot of the best
Um,
moments in the movie in terms of like kind of the well done parts in scenes honestly was everything that went into the trailers.
mhm.
It's like you
um,
almost could pick out of this went into the trailer. This
yeah,
went into the trailer.
yeah, and that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
But I'll get to that. There are other shots that makes things read one way, but because the writer director has a different thing in mind, it turns into a different thing. For example, when Chris and Jill are together after Jill rescues Chris from being dick eaten by uh zombies under a table, that's a moment where the camera's angled a certain way and the actors are framed a certain way where when he turns to see her, they should kiss.
Yep.
It
I
really was.
remember you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
They
You know
should
what
be
I think
kissing.
You know what I think it was is this movie definitely decided to lean into Chris has a thing for Jill, but then at the last second they realized, "Oh, but the games have never really confirmed this. The games have never made it as overt." And so it was like, "Oh, we got to back off and not be too specific." Which again, I'm just like, "No, just fucking commit." You're a
It
movie
makes
and we're already seeing you as a separate canon anyways. You're combining two games into one. Just commit to the bit. If you want Chris and Jill to be together, then that's your theory in this. Let the games do their own thing.
it makes the hug that
hmm
happens incredibly awkward.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the actors did that without it coming off as awkward for them. I can only surmise that it was enough takes where they were like, okay, let's just do this, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
It feels weird and whether you're on the Chris and Jill bandwagon or the Chris and Leon bandwagon, it doesn't really as far as the movie goes, I just again it comes back to commit to what you're doing. Again, I'm going to
mhm,
throw example out there, the Paul W.S. Anderson films. They don't really they set up first, they sort of imply potentially, but then they do all this other stuff, but ultimately they're implied their more direct romance is that they actually have Carlos and Alice kiss on screen.
mhm.
But it's like, you know what? I don't care if Alice doesn't exist in canon and we don't see Carlos past Resident Evil 3. They've committed to this. They have been building this chemistry up. They were building chemistry with those two characters from the very first time they met. And part of it is the two of them, the two actors have great chemistry together on screen anyways. You know,
Yeah.
listen to them talking behind the scenes in the cast commentary, and Mila Jovovich and Oded Fair have wonderful chemistry. It's hilarious. But it
Mhm.
also is like, again, they committed to it. You know what? They committed to where these characters went, and it works. And I don't mind that it does. And I'm not bothered by it not being the game. It's like, this is obviously a different canon because, well, one, we already know this by this point. And I kind of want to look at Welcome to Raccoon City and be like, you're obviously a different canon because you're combining two games into one movie taking place at the same time. That's already so far outside of the games that why? It's like they keep catching themselves and being like, no, we need to be more like the games. We need to be more like the games. And and instead of it hindered them.
Yeah.
Because they came so trapped in telling a nostalgic thing. And it's funny because at reviews of the movie, people will be like, this is the most Resident Evil movie. And I'm like, it may have the most nostalgia, but it's honestly the worst one.
It really is.
Yeah. And someday I would love to do a stream on here where we talk about nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
But I would
Yes.
want to reserve that for a different time because I think that deserves its own focus.
It's a big thing, and this movie was what I will say, and to that, and I love the idea of having that conversation because this movie helped me articulate. As I was sitting there venting and like thinking over what frustrated me about this movie, I realized this is what bothers me about all the other nostalgic movies, the remakes, the 20 years later sequels, Disney leaning into like all of the like, let's remake this and do this and do this and remake this. It literally like opened a door. I'm like, now I understand what's bothering me in all of these. And so without going into that conversation, this movie sort of stuck it all under a microscope in a way that made it really obvious.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of the editing is very amateur. I think whoever's the editor was not new, but was either being directed by Roberts, the director writer, as to how to edit it, or is still learning how to edit and made a fair bit of choices that aren't fully necessary. And I think it's more the former because there's all these shots that are still in the movie that you can tell that Roberts was like, that's cool.
Well,
That's
again, the
cool.
way Claire becomes the linchpin of the entire story, this is where I'll come to. Objectively, the actress does a decent job. I hate what they do with Claire, also because Claire is supposed to be the younger sister, and they
Yeah.
present her as the young. Now, in this one, they actually present them more like twins. Honestly, the way they show them, I'm like, honestly, it seems like they're implying they're twins or they're way closer in age than the games have ever
Okay,
implied.
so
Again,
they're
I don't have an issue with that, but what I do dislike is because of the way
they're
he
definitely not new.
characterized Claire. Yeah, but I guess definitely because the way he characterized Claire as opposed to everybody else, it makes Claire older. It makes her come off as older, as more mature and more seasoned, which just stops making sense when you consider that, you know, everybody else in the film. It's like, why is she the one that knows everything, that what knows what the hell is going on, knows how to handle everything? This no longer makes sense, and it makes her seem like she's out of a different narrative.
Yeah.
It's making the entire plot rely on her, which again, it just doesn't work for the story.
Yeah. So I think that, and I wouldn't be surprised if Roberts was also the editor, but I doubt it because he
I
probably
think
has
he
other
had
things to
strong
do.
I think
But
as writer director though he had strong influence on the editing. I would say that.
probably that's probably more accurate as to what it is
Yeah.
because there's just too many these will be cool shots left in the movie and not
Yeah.
enough story left in the movie.
But there's not much there to begin with, which that's where I agree with you. I
Yeah.
think he was very
Um,
heavily influenced.
so I will say this. Um, I think that he loves the games. I
Yeah.
think that shows. Because I don't think that he would try to put things like the first time you meet the zombie in RE1 in the movie if he genuinely didn't like it. Like
Mhm.
the game series.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take that from him.
No. Well, I think that and that can be said for pretty much you don't make a Resident Evil movie with at this point the reputation they tend to have in terms of the live action movies. You don't make it if you don't have a love for the games.
Right. Um so I want to talk a little more about camera stuff and editing stuff and whatnot.
Just wanted to mention real quick the editor is Dev Singh, and he has been editing since 1999.
So he's been
What?
editing. So he's had a pretty long career editing wise.
He is awesome. He just like things that I know, like for example, like he edited the first episode of The Expanse back in 2015, for example. That's like
That all the honestly, that just convinces me all the more that it was very strongly influenced by the writer, by Roberts, because that first episode of The Expanse suggests a very different level caliber of editing ability, editing ability.
Yeah,
Which it more enforces that this was strongly influenced by writer director decisions.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just Alan Smithy himself? Because this movie makes him look incompetent.
I think to some degree, because like as an editor, most people I don't think to a certain extent you get the same level of I don't think executives look at editor as much as the rest of us might. So I don't think like having a bad job necessarily reflects in the same way.
Well, I hope he doesn't use any of this in his reel.
Depends, yeah. I think
So
you know what I think you lean on there, just to keep us on this just for a moment longer, Dave. I know you want to get on to camera work and everything. Is I think to some extent it goes to him editing it, and again this is just guesswork and theoretical. I can't confirm any of it, but goes to the same thing of Paul W.S. Anderson is one of the producers on this film, which goes more to the community of Resident Evil fandom. I think goes more to there being a community of fans trying to help and fans with prior experience trying to bring their support to other fans. Constantine owns the film rights to Resident Evil. That is that is flat out. I learned that in the documentary about Romero and everything. They own the rights and everything. And I could see that also very much being more as it's sort of a fan supportive thing of I've done this thing, I've had this whole successful thing, and I'm going to come over and now support your project in the same field because we're both passionate about the same thing. And, even if we take different approaches to it. So it's a little bit, to me, almost reads more of a supporting people trying to support each other's projects because they share a passion for it. And again, that comes back to there's a certain level of I don't think anybody takes on a Resident Evil live action film without it being some level of a passion project because there has been so much mixed response.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that's all theoretical.
Yeah. And that could just be a case as well of Singh wanted to possibly make certain choices and Roberts was like, no, it's got to be like this. And so a lot of stuff was left on the floor, or it could have been Roberts only had these shots. And so Singh was working with the best that he could.
Yeah.
And if that's the
could
case,
just amount to this is a job, I'm just doing what I'm told. Everybody's had days like that.
Yeah, could be that too.
Get it done.
But I feel like it might be a mix of these are the shots that I've got and this is all I can do. And Robert's saying, stick this in here because it's cool.
Yeah. And ultimately the editor is beholden to the vision that the director wants. Had conversations with friends who work in film editing about it and how you can make all the case in the world for why this decision is better and technically be right. But at the end of the day, you're the editor and the director is the one who kind of gets, or whoever kind of owns the film into that extent. And in this case, I would say writer, director being the same guy, it's kind of becomes beholden to who's the boss, who's ultimately saying, I like this, this is my vision versus this is not my vision.
Yeah.
And it's the challenge of creative differences.
And if that's the case, then my man needs to stop eating Doritos because look, there's a certain lesson that comes with things like color grading. And it's a lesson that a lot of editors can learn here. And a lot of directors can learn here. And a lot of everybody can learn here. And that is make sure that you know what you want as far as the color grading.
And if you're going to
And
use it in
maybe,
part of the storytelling, then really think about
yeah,
it.
if you're going to use it in storytelling, like how some people will have it be, oh, suddenly it's red. That means that someone's going to die in here, kind of deal. That's fantastic. You can tell lots of
OG
stories with just color and lights.
Liz,
OG
what's it mean when it
Suspiria,
turns
I swear, is
Christmas?
carried. Yeah, I would say original Suspiria is basically carried by the cinematography,
Seriously.
including the color grading. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you make choices like this, wherein most of the movie is doused in orange Cheeto dust and Dorito dust. Some of it a little lighter, some of it hit real hard by the F5 Dorito dust bowl. It looks awful. It looks absolutely awful. And then on top of that, you don't even stick with it because you have moments where you go to like the city or something like that, and it is cold steel gray
Yep.
for like a few moments. And then suddenly we shock people by putting them back in the orange. And it doesn't read as you trying to do this on purpose, as in, I'm going for an effect here, and this is what this means. It's more, well, I want this in orange because I like this color. We need more orange. Turn up the volume, orange. You see this bottle of Mountain Dew Live Wire? I'm gonna pour in a bunch of crushed up Doritos and shake this motherfucker up.
We knew there'd
I
be
want it
strong
to be
opinions somewhere, and this is it.
I want it to be this color of orange, Sing. You hear me? There's a reason I'm Johannes Roberts, the Dorito Pope. You
Oh no!
make
I
it
knew good
happen.
shit was. I knew it. I knew it. See, I knew there would be a point where you would have a rage rant, Dave, and this
Wait a
is it,
second,
and
wait
I
a second.
love it.
We already got
It's
Jeff Keighley, the Dorito Pope. Is this like is this a doctrinal schism?
yes.
Is Johannes Roberts the Dorito anti Pope?
Well, now I
Yes.
kind of, even though I don't really want to watch his other films, I kind of want to know if that same orange skew shows up in his other film.
He is the Dorito anti-pope. Um and
I
he's got
love
a
it.
following. And that
Oh my
following is a
god!
real live wire.
Oh my
Um
god!
so so when you're making choices like that, and this goes for anything in film, uh, as one gets into film and thinks about the craft and whatnot, and you're going to take on a role like writer director, presumably you would work with a cinematographer who understands this stuff, as well as an editor who understands this stuff and can give you good advice and guidance. Because
Yeah.
look, as much as we have this myth of the auteur, the one who does it all, the one with the vision, and the one who has all the things happen. It is an extreme rarity, and I'm talking there might have been two in our lifetime, and in the world's lifetime, of
Yep.
auteurs when it comes to film. Now, who
I
those
mean,
two are, I don't know, but
yeah.
I'm
Well, because
just
even some of the
labeling
best
one and
films.
two.
Well, because even some of the best films out there that I've seen, and people want to sit there and be like, well, yes, we associate Peter Jackson with Lord of the Rings. We associate Lucas with Star Wars. But like the best Star Wars, the original Star Wars films, he only directed one of those.
Yep.
He had other writers. His wife is the reason that like the TIE fight, like the fight scene at the end of the first film was so good because she basically gutted what they had and went back to the cutting room floor and recut that whole scene. There were so many other people involved in the big name production of those original films. Lord of the Rings, people talk Peter Jackson. He was one of 3 people working on the writing.
Mm-hmm.
His wife and
And
Philippa Boyens, and he had other directors. He had this. It's like these things. I mean, my boss and I were just talking about this today with the project I was doing with them, where I laughed because I'm like, this poster started out in this point, and like several versions later, it's way better. But this was after I got it from the guy who the partner who made the poster. Then I took a pass at it. Then I went to my dad and went, "What do you think?" Because you kind of understand the audience better because it's an academic audience. And then going to my boss and then going back and forth on it with my boss. And I literally am looking at my boss or talking with my boss on the phone, going, "This is why you can't work on these things by yourself." You
And
know?
to add and march forward, Lucas in particular, back then he had people say no.
Yes, yes.
He
And then
had
later
people who
on.
could tell him no.
And
And
he
we
was
know this because when he took on the prequels that he made up in like a day, there was a reason that he was told no. And we
Yep.
see it in black and, well, not in black and white, in color. We see it in color. Why? It's why it's important sometimes for a director to be told no and that
Yeah,
stick. Not always,
exactly.
but sometimes it's important to have that power.
It goes back to these things really aren't made in a vacuum.
Yes.
It's not that a committee needs to make it, and a committee can be equally detrimental, but because you need a singular vision. You need somebody at the center who knows what's the core vision of this, who can kind of
Yeah.
act like that's the vision, that's off the vision, that's on the narrative, that's off the narrative. But you need additional perspectives to go to say, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Who can come in and say, what? I mean, it's why the writer's room exists.
There's a reason that you
Understand.
have a writer. And if you are writing and directing, there's a reason you have a producer. There's a reason you have a first AD. There's a reason you have a cinematographer. There's a reason you have a script supervisor. There's a reason
Yep.
that you have a G&E, you know. There's a reason that you have art, a
Yep.
production designer. There's a reason that you have a sound guy, right? There's a reason that you have all these roles with all these heads who mostly report to the AD who communicates with the director.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why you have pre-production where you communicate heavily with the heads of those departments that you have in mind so that you can bring this vision together and unify it. And you trust, as a director, you trust those other heads to help fill in your vision. And if
Mm-hmm.
there is an issue, you talk about it. And when you talk about
Yeah.
it, you talk about it and keep an open mind. You don't say, me director, me know best, me, you do this or you go home. No, that's not how film works. That
No.
it is
Well,
not,
it's like it's not how good film works. Maybe we should
it's,
caveat.
yeah, it's not how good
Oh
film
yeah.
works. You're not a one person show.
The
Even
one
though
man
we,
band is rare.
even though we half joke that we wear multiple hats in indie film, because it is true we wear multiple hats, but we also work together.
Yeah.
Um,
The multiple hats, though, in the best indie films, there is still we say we wear multiple hats because it's almost more logistical. You wear multiple hats because logistically you can't have the huge crew, but
yeah,
the best indie films, it's still collaborative.
yeah,
And that's, I think, what we're getting on is the collaborative nature is so critical to telling a good story or to develop, not even to telling it, to developing a good story
yeah.
and a good film,
And
really.
this movie, this movie does not feel like it's collaborative. This movie
No.
feels like it is Johannes Roberts, and he got people on board to fill in roles so that technically they are credited for these roles. But he
Hmm.
told them exactly what he wanted them to do.
Yeah.
Even if they were like, well, I've been doing this for 20, 30 years, and this is not going to look quite right for this reason. And he just tells them, why did you talk? You go over there and you do the thing and you shut the fuck up.
Hmm.
That's what this feels like. You can
Yeah.
feel it in the writing. You can feel it in the direction of actors who are not Neil McDonough because he's not big enough to tell Neil McDonough what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Neil McDonough
Yeah.
will tell him what to do.
Yeah. And to an extent, he may have been the actor that he kind of went, here's the character, here's the script, go.
Yeah. I could see that with Neil McDonough, but the rest of them, he's like, this is what you do. And if you don't do it this way, I'm going to kick you. Or something like that. So some other dumb thing that someone who made this movie would say as a threat that's really just more childish lashing out.
Even just the simple, well, that's not the vision I have,
Yeah.
It's that
And
the force of personality.
and maybe I'm over exaggerating it some. But this movie, there are shots where things take too long. There are shots where it reads one way, but he forces it to be a different thing. There are lines that are said that are nonsensical or that are just straight dumb. There are moments that make zero sense. Like when Wesker looks at the crow in admiration before Jill shoots it.
Excuse me.
There's
Why Wesker is a bro? I'm sorry, that is a whole decision that I'm sitting here going, why?
there's moments that feel like they're supposed to be in other movies, like when Chris is at the dinner table and there are zombies that are slowly sneaking up on him. Feels like it belongs in the Evil Dead, the second one, right? Because it's just comical enough that I'm like, Ash could be here.
You're sort of waiting for the sort of wild camera angles that were supposed to be like the demons of the Necronomicon vision coming around and like sneaking up on him under the table or around the table and being like, whoa,
Yeah.
Well, now I want
furniture
Sam
all
Raimi
starts
one.
talking at him. Sam Raimi's Resident Evil. I would watch that.
I think everybody would watch that.
I would
but,
and I don't care what age he is. Make Bruce Campbell Chris Redfield. I support it.
but it's there are certain choices
Bruce
that
Campbell
are
is
made.
Barry.
That kind of works. There are certain choices like music. I commented surprise at Journey being in this movie. And my thought is that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of other songs that they licensed as well that I'm like, that's a lot of money. And my thought is to look at the rest of the movie and go, you could hire a local band or something like that, or somebody who's like on the rise, but still relatively affordable, who would fit kind of the genre of music that you're going for and fit it in. And then take the extra money that you spent on Four Non-Blondes and Journey and beef up everything else in your movie.
I mean, even doing something like what Suspiria did, the original one did, where they had the score done basically created by one, what was it, Goblin? Is the group?
Goblin, yes. They are
Goblin, where they... So it gave it a very unique flavor, but it was also very cohesive because it was Goblin's interpretation of the score to Suspiria.
Yeah.
Or Goblin's version of it. And I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm assuming they weren't that big of a group.
My understanding is Goblin, they were a prog rock band. It was actually Argento who got them to change their name to Goblin. I forget what their old one was, but he was like, that's not a great name. You guys need a better name. And so,
but still more of like it's a personal connection where it's not like we're talking like some big name Kiss or Rolling Stones rolling in and saying we're doing this. It's a little bit like we've got enough of a reputation for it to kind of mean something and look good, but also unknown enough that we can maybe be more experimental and do something and do our thing and not have people sit there and be like, that doesn't sound like you.
Yeah. Oh, but okay, they were originally known as Cherry 5.
Still never heard of them.
And sounds more like sounds more like they would fit in Papa Roach era kind of Zoot Sooty ska pop.
But
I like Goblin. That it lends itself to sort of experimental.
And also, one other thing about Goblin too is like their bread and butter was film scores. Like they weren't like a big pop band. Like they weren't a big like big name musical group that Argento sought out. They were professionals who primarily focus on doing film scores, and we kind of get away from that a little bit with things like this. Like, why do we need the licensed track in this? It's like, if I can bring another thing in there for a moment, it's like another video game movie. Like, I know people love this movie. I know it did gangbusters. I need to see it myself still, but like the Mario movie from Imagination. Like, one of the things you always hear people talk about that is like, why the licensed music instead of like the like even just interpretations of the classic Koji Kondo music that everyone knows and loves from Mario and is like part of the audio identity of this franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a little bit
Yeah.
of a, you know, I mean, I know Resident Evil doesn't necessarily have the notoriety for soundtrack the way, say, like Silent Hill does,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but it still kind of lends it of maybe we would have been more beneficial to basically get like 6 had a pretty charismatic score. Like
Mhm.
I say that in terms of 6 has a fairly bombastic, almost cinematic score. 5 has a good score. I really like the scores in the remakes, like 2 and 3, especially 4. I don't remember a lot of it because I've only played 4 all the way through once, but I'm like, you know, here's these guys who some of them may want to break out to film that are excellent and
Mhm.
maybe we showcase a game. I mean, I love that the composer for Silent Hill, the games, has basically been the composer on any and everything Silent Hill,
Yeah.
including the movies.
It's
And
like,
it's like, but it does so much to lending to the tone because it's like, even if the movie feels different, like the second Silent Hill movie, I know got kind of panned and everything,
oh yeah.
but when that music plays, you know you're in a Silent Hill movie.
And it's like the degree to which they take that, like the promotions they're doing right now, that came, like there was a promotional video for the film just released a couple weeks ago, the upcoming Silent Hill movie, and it was focused around Akira Yamaoka and Christoph Gans talking about the film together.
Yeah,
Yamaoka's doing a
yeah.
tour, by the way.
Ooh.
I saw that too. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to check that out. But yeah, it's I mean,
Um.
and it comes back to regardless of your feelings on that, it's like there are options that maybe are financially more sound decisions, are more
Mhm.
sensible than putting money into licensing like one song that you use for 45 seconds in a movie
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something. And especially if your movie is not high budget or you're bringing in a lot of unknowns in it, I'd have said spend less money than on that. Or if you're going to spend that much money on the music, spend that money on getting somebody who's really going to compose a score rather than putting all that money into, again, what may be 30 seconds of song usage.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather see if they were going to spend whatever money it cost them for licensed music, I'd have rather seen that money go into get somebody who knows how to score a film. Bring, even if it's new talent, bring in somebody, give them a chance to shine.
Yeah.
Give them a chance to shine and give the whole movie the weight of somebody scoring. Because, you guys know I'm passionate. You all know I'm passionate about this of how much the score can do for a movie, even when it's mediocre or even
Yeah.
when the script doesn't add up. I'm going to let's jump back and cite the Star Wars prequel films because even though the prequel films, gosh, the dialogue is painful at times, the scores, I swear, are what make those movies still compelling to watch. Because even if the dialogue doesn't always do the best job carrying it, the music carries it. And
Yeah.
it helps carry the weight that maybe the specific dialogue is not able to carry at quite the scale we'd like. And I think that really, no one talks about it, but I'm like, I think that's some of the lasting power of those prequel films. That's where they get some of their lasting power is the emotional story is still there.
Mhm.
Again, without deep diving too far into that, but it's like music, I mean, the first Resident Evil live action, the first one, they scored that one was a combination of I can't remember his name, and he collaborated. It was a collaborative work where it was more the gentleman who was collaborating, it was one guy who had more experience in actually film scoring, came more from the film scoring world, collaborated with Marilyn Manson, which
Yeah.
gave that movie a very unique flavor of music that I genuinely like. Again, we are not talking about the problematic person who is Marilyn Manson, but the music was super interesting to me, very unique flavor. And the composer went on to do some of the other Resident Evil movies in that franchise, that version of the franchise. And
Yeah.
so again, it's like, hey, this worked. And I don't need super licensed specific songs. I think the first time a song that's actually more like a licensed song, like I've heard it in other places, shows up is in like the third movie. And I'm like, yeah, well, by that point, you've made 2 whole ass movies. You've probably got more of a budget now,
Yeah.
you know.
Um, looking at his IMDb, Roberts, um,
I'm looking at his
a lot
wiki,
of
so
his IMDb record is basically all mediocre. It's not great, it's not terrible with exception of a few things. As far as like the star rating is concerned, for whatever the star
Inter-
rating is worth. Um,
interestingly, almost all of his things he's credited with, and I'm looking on his wiki, almost everything he's credited with, he is both director. Most of his works, he was both director and writer. So this
Oh
is
my
yeah.
somebody
god.
who comes in with an idea of what he wants to do
Yep.
and does it.
He reminds me of an old friend of mine, um, which is kind of how I got into film in the first place. Um, who made a movie, and I spent 3 weeks there. Day one, I was filming as just a background zombie, and then the
Oh,
rest of
I
the three
remember this
weeks I was
story.
PA. There's a lot to it, but it doesn't really matter. My focus is on the director of that movie.
Mm.
He makes a lot of mediocre to bad movies that he writes, directs, and his brother produces. Um, and their their best is close to Resident Evil's Welcome to Raccoon City.
Oh
And I say
god.
close as in it doesn't get there.
Yeah.
And I would say that they would still have a lot to go on to
This
get
still
to
has a
that
bit
point.
this still has a
But
bit more production and experience behind it.
it does. It
Yeah.
does. And the class of actors for the most part are better in this. Um the one movie that I was part of with that team, uh that movie had Scream Queen Debbie Rochon in it. Which she's done a lot of work. She's a Canadian actor, real sweetheart, very very sweet
Aw.
person. She writes a lot of or wrote. I don't know if she still
Mhm.
writes for them, but she wrote a lot of Fangoria articles.
Oh, okay.
Um, she's done a lot of Tromaville,
Ah,
Nukem High, and all that. Um, she does a lot of work. Like she gets
yeah.
a lot of work because of what she does.
Mhm.
She's like I said, she's a scream queen, and
Yep.
she makes the rounds in a lot of B movies.
And some
Um,
people, that's just what they enjoy doing, you know?
yeah, she
There
has
is something to
fun.
be said for smaller productions, you know?
Yeah, she has fun. It's very clear that she has fun. Um, Getting to talk with her and meet her and all that stuff, not knowing who she was, because I didn't know who she was at the time, you know. Um, which I don't think I would have fanboyed out on her if I knew who she was. Um, like just knowing her, getting to know her and all that, talking with her, like it was nice. Like it was real sweet. And then in contrast to like the character that she played, who was like evil and doing like evil stuff, it's pretty fun. Um, but this movie and the vibe I get from Johannes Roberts is on a similar level of that director that I
Yeah.
know. And I don't think that this director, Johannes Roberts, is going to get anything better than this.
Does
Just
this
straight up.
movie feel like to I'm gonna just ask this outright because the more you're saying it, the more I'm thinking about it. This movie feels like it sort of lacks a passion behind all the characters. Like it kind of feels like the actors are just acting
I
in
think
this, and
that
no amount of skill to that. And again, I know I have a soft spot in my heart for the Emilio Jovic films. and I've watched a lot more behind the scenes, but when I watch them on screen, there seems to
Mhm.
be such an energy and vibe that I'm like, that when you see behind the scenes, you go, oh, everybody's having a great time. They're excited about what they're doing, they're passionate about it. And I
Mhm.
feel like that comes out on screen, you
Yes.
know? And I have to admit, the more I think about it, the more I feel like this just lacked that passion. I didn't feel like that energy was really there.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. I think Neil McDonough was the strongest presence. And I say that because he's a professional. He's been doing this a long, long time. He
I
knows
would say
what's
he is
up.
the epitome of a professional, which is
Even
called, it doesn't really matter, he'll hold his own.
yeah, even when he is in a movie that is subpar, he commits 100%. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to get through a rough time
Yeah.
in a movie and make it come across as good.
Yeah.
The rest of them, the rest of the actors, they have a varying degree of experience. You can kind of tell who's got more experience than who.
Yeah.
Um, but their experience doesn't lend them the same strength that Neil McDonough has. And so you can tell that they're there, but they're either kind of being forced to act a certain way or they're doing things begrudgingly. It kind of
Yeah.
feels like, and they're
I
not
I
living up to their full potential that they have.
yeah, I almost feel like Neil McDonough, the closest to really kind of having that passion of they seem like they are having fun, actually is Tom Hopper, Wesker.
Yeah.
Which, for considering how gutted the character is, I can say that that guy seems to be eating the scenery alive when he's on it. I hate what they
Mhm.
did with Wesker, and it's an embarrassment, and it's depressing, and it's like, come on, this is like the most critical villain in, most will say, like one of the most critical villains in Resident Evil, and you just utterly like castrated the character. But objectively, that actor looks like he is having the time of his life.
Yeah.
Like
It's
there is an
very,
actual passion, even in the most absurd moments.
and I think that's why I could connect him to a theoretical Barry movie so readily
Yeah.
is he is, for what it's worth, putting energy into it. And there are moments where he's having a good time.
Yeah.
And I think
Which,
he's
and then
kind of
again,
making it his own.
yeah, and which in the case of seeing, kind of knowing that he was probably one of the other faces that I really recognized. And again, I've not watched, like, but I know Umbrella Academy is hugely popular with a lot of folks. I've never watched it, but he's one of the regulars on that. So he's got more seasoning in terms of kind
Mhm.
of the scale of popular works that he's done versus a lot of the others. I'm going, I don't really know who you are or what you've been in. And
Yeah.
they may have done a lot,
Um,
but it's probably on a much smaller, more isolated scale.
yeah.
And that's not to criticize anybody. Everybody's got their experience, but I would say he's one of the ones where I'm like, oh, you actually like, objectively, without knowing who anybody is, he'd be one of the ones that I'd be like, oh, he's done other things.
And as I reflect on this, I think I want to tone down my thoughts a bit on Claire.
By the way,
Because
before you finish that thought, I just went looking in the wiki to see if I could find some behind the scenes stuff about the production here. You
Hmm.
yeah.
know how we were talking about how much money they had to have spent on, licensing those songs?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Budget for this was $25 million. Thing about that is that was not the original budget. That is a mid pre-production budget cut. The original budget for this film was $40 million. So they're
Ouch.
doing this knowing they've got a budget cut here, and they're
Yeah,
already
lost.
doing this, and they're,
They lost nearly half of their budget.
yeah.
I would be making very different decisions. I would go, you cut a movie by that much budget, I'm taking the whole script back to the drawing board and going, we need to make sure that this is doable.
Yeah.
Yeah. First thing that
We need
goes
to
is
make
those
sure, and we
songs.
need to start, and we need to start making adjustments. You lose that much budget, on a film that has to be effects heavy because it's got zombies and monsters. I mean, if anybody sits there, well, zombies, I'm like, practical effects are still effects.
Yeah.
Monster movies, zombie movies are effects heavy films.
And this was originally planned to have a lot more of that kind of thing in there. I'm reading this right now from the wiki. Some of the cuts and changes were made so late that most of the concept artwork done by Daniel Carrasco for the monsters to be featured was finished, including hunters, chimeras, crimson heads, pale heads, giant spiders, the giant shark Neptune, the Mr. X version of the Tyrant, and others.
And
There's
what's
not
upsetting
enough
about it is I'm
time for
like,
that.
I was gonna say the thing. I'm like, I'm sitting here going, but why? It tells me that they still were so dead set on nostalgia and just bringing everything out of the games that I'm like, that.
Why are you trying to do two games? Why are you trying to do two stories at once? Why?
No amount of using the budget to do more and more. If they'd had the budget, what it tells me is they would have just spent the movie on more and more unnecessary stuff without the plot. I'd have much rather have heard them say we could have done more with the zombie effects. We could have done more of this. To me, it just says that this was never about the narrative. It was somebody who, objectively, I'm going to say, I don't want to gatekeep fandoms here. Everybody can love Resident Evil in your own way, and I'm sure that a lot of the people on there are huge fans of it. That's fine. Objectively,
when you make
though,
a bad
from a movie and a
product,
and objectively from a movie and storytelling, this is where I have trouble with the fandom's reaction. This is why it's disappointing to me that the Netflix series got canceled, because that walked in a much better way, I think, walked a fine line between paying homage to the source material, but being its own thing without being bogged down by we have to have everything in here.
And Netflix Resident Evil,
and I'm not calling that show perfect either. I've got some criticisms for that one too, but
I'm still only on episode 2. I should probably watch some of that before going to bed tonight.
Yes.
So,
but one other thing, you were wondering like why they made the connections with Lisa Trevor and all the other stuff going on there. One of the things here also is originally Claire and Chris had no connection with Birkin or Ben Bertolucci, the journalist that's locked up. The one that they was like, why?
Him to
yeah. This was
he's a journalist?
Yes, he is a journalist. He's also in the games.
In the games, he's a journalist. The movie shows him more as like a conspiracy
I thought he was a
theorist.
science nerd.
The movie plays him less like a journalist and more like an online conspiracy theorist.
Okay,
science.
I just didn't hear the dialogue for him.
Yeah,
like
no, I will say objectively, your leaning is more what the film was making him see like than a journalist.
But this was added later to help streamline the story after other script changes. So there's a bunch of script changes going on here because of all the shit going on here.
At that point, I would just be like, table this, we're going back to the drawing board, we got to start over. I mean, I know there's production issues with that, and people be like, that's not feasible. I'd be like, yeah, but, what do you want? A decent product or a half-assed attempt with what you have?
There's a whole thing from Scream Rant here about how the budget cuts destroyed the film, basically.
Yeah.
I think the budget cuts did a lot of damage, but I think the damage was already there. Knowing what it sounds like they were missing because knowing what it sounds like they were disappointed that they didn't get to do because of budget cuts, to me says no amount of money would have made this better.
No. And this is an hour and 38-minute movie.
That's a lot of movie for no story.
Oh my god.
For all the monsters alone that they were talking about that they had to cut, this movie would have to at least be 4 hours. At minimum. That's talking like speed running it.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm glad they removed Barry and Rebecca. Barry and Rebecca were originally supposed to be in this, and they originally got killed in that version of the script.
Well, they got
I guess better to not be there than to die.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say, because I do have to take care of a pupper too, so probably.
Yeah. Well, I'm working toward that.
You're working towards it, okay?
Yeah, I'm trying. So
we knew this would be a beefy discussion.
Oh yeah.
So ultimately, it's not the fault of the actors. I think some of them belong in a different style of movie, a different genre of movie. I think some are strong enough to be able to carry the day. I think that one person was having fun on set, and that was Tom
I really
Hopper,
think he seemed like
who
he was enjoying himself,
yeah,
honestly.
but I don't think it was because of the director or the script. I think he was just there having a good time.
Yeah.
And that's not to his detriment. I think he's fantastic. And I
Mhm.
would love to see him play young Barry.
That would
But
be Tom Hopper, we want you for young Barry. Like,
I don't want to get too far off track. I think that the rest of them, their experience levels vary and it kind of shows, but they're also not having a good time. And because they're not having a good time, they're not committing 100%, and it kind of shows. Um, as I was going to say with Claire, I'm kind of backing off on her a little bit now as we've been talking about this, because I think her motivation throughout the whole thing was, I'm a badass, I'm a badass, I'm a badass. And that was kind of all that she was
Oh my god,
she
doing.
honestly reads as arrogant, like she thinks she's better than everybody else,
I just
including
read
her brother.
I just read somebody who's like, okay, my motivation is I'm a badass, let's go. And then
Yeah.
that's what she does. But
Yeah.
with the rest of them, I could tell that like they're trying to do something with it. Like I think that Jill's actor, she's trying to do some stuff here and there. You know, that
Yeah.
moment of chemistry with her and Chris, I felt that. But it
Yeah.
was clear that if it wasn't for Roberts, they probably would have kissed in that moment. I feel
It
like they
definitely feels
probably
like
felt
a wait.
that.
It definitely feels like a wait, we can't contradict the games, even though it's like, well, the games have never the games haven't even pushed that much chemistry. They've just really emphasized a closeness to Jill and Chris. But
And I
the
think
closest that reads as partnerships in this, I mean, a little bit more in Rev 2, but the games leaves it open-ended enough that it feels like they felt like they suddenly went, whoop, whoop, we can't push too far. Gotta back him off.
and I think that she has moments in particular, like when Wesker gets shot and she goes down there to check on him and she's like, you're gonna be all right, yada yada. Right. I know I made a little joke about her like talking to a puppy going up to upstate or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but
It really is, though.
I feel like that was the right instinct. It's
Yeah.
just that because she's not 100% in it, it doesn't carry well, and so it comes off like that instead.
I
And
couldn't really figure out
so
who she was supposed to have chemistry with almost, because it's like at the
I
beginning you're seeing her being more partner in crime with Wesker,
yeah,
and Chris is just off in his own little world.
yeah. But
And
then there's
then
that.
there's chemistry with Chris, and it's like, okay, but then there's chemistry with Wesker. And honestly, I just want to sit there and go, and again, just commit. Decide
I
if that's
think
going to be the thing.
I think that her chemistry with Wesker is like buddy cop chemistry. I would love to see them do
Yeah.
a good cop, bad cop, buddy cop deal, right?
Oh
He
my
would be the cool cop
gosh.
and who's like super chill and friendly and all that, and she would
Could
be like
she
the more
be
straight, the straight role.
could she be the partner, or like could Barry Burton prequel film have him also meet his wife and have her be his wife?
I mean, I would
Like, I
watch
feel
that.
like you could get like a great little like subplot romance of how like he meets his wife, the woman who
But
eventually is his
by the way,
wife.
Liz, something just
Yeah.
occurred to me that I
Um.
went looking up things on Google and looking at pictures of Tom Hopper again. I think they cast him as the wrong Wesker.
Yeah.
He's a Wesker, all
Yeah.
right.
I told you the first time he showed up on screen, I thought they were gonna somehow like finagle getting Jake into the wrong
Yes,
time period, because I was like,
he
"What is
looks
this?
like
Somehow are we gonna somehow say Jake is born way earlier and somehow here?" Like, I was genuinely like, "Okay, that's out of left field to pull a character who's like in single digits age at this point. He's supposed to be like, I would say canon wise, he's like 6 years younger than Sherry Birkin. So like
yeah.
in Resident Evil 1, Jake is technically like 5 years old. And I'm like, okay, are we gonna finagle Jake to being born way earlier and actually being in Raccoon City at this point? Because that would be an interesting take. He's got Jake energy.
mhm.
He really
Like, if they were gonna
does.
adapt, like, Resident Evil 6 into a film, I'd be and they said Tom Hopper was gonna be Jake Wesker, I'd be like, "Yep, I buy it. I buy it."
So
Sorry for the interruption there. Sorry for the
so
interruption.
so I wanna kind of wrap up on this, and I want to say that This movie wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. It did a disservice because somebody wanted to do service. And that somebody had way too much power. And because of that power, and because he's used to saying my way or the highway, given his credits and given that he is writer director on most of his projects, we got something where actors were not putting forth their best. We got at we got not even a mediocre script. It's a bit below mediocre, but not bad enough to be fun. It's more like if you made hot tea and you left it on the kitchen counter for 5 hours in room temperature and then you came back to it, and when you sipped it, the tea and the water had separated and the water was on top, and that was your first sip, is whatever came from that. That's the script.
Yeah. Those first
And
6 minutes gave me so much hope, more just because I'm like, this is so uniquely flavored, and I was
and
so interested.
and
And
a lot
then
of the choices, whether it be something like deciding not to plow a truck through a gate, or making a dog jump through a car window rather than a mansion window, stuff where you're like wanting to call to stuff in the games, but you decide to cuckold everybody and pull back on it, as if you're kind of intimidated by it and scared what people will think, and so you don't fully commit to it. This movie was this movie was the embodiment of a cuckold relationship.
yeah.
And it shows, because yes, Johannes Roberts seems to like Resident Evil, seems at least enough to include certain shots that he really likes from the
Mhm.
games. But there's
Yeah.
a lot of things where he doesn't lean into it or he doesn't commit to it. And his script is kind of everywhere and kind of just full of fan service moments. And
It
because of that, it's not a story. It's just something that somebody thinks is a story because they build the story in their mind. And then when they create the movie and it's edited, they see the movie that they wanted to make, but everybody else sees a bunch of parts put
yeah.
one after the other. And so it's just a cuckold movie.
Well, and to the people who out there who praise it as being the best Resident Evil live action movie, to them I'd want to challenge of go, what were you looking for a movie then? Were you just looking for call outs and nostalgia galore? Because okay, then that's what you got. Or were you looking for a movie in live action that's in the world of Resident Evil? Like, what are you looking for? Because I wouldn't even call this an adaptation
Yeah.
because it loses the heart of it's so focused on nostalgia that it misses the heart, which is the story. And,
I
I'm
I would love
that
to offer something. And that
mhm,
something is, one day the three of us get together and we talk about video game adaptations
yes,
as a single episode. Because I think
I
that
want
there's
to.
enough that we only need one episode.
Yeah.
Um, and
And there's
I
enough
would,
out there now to go off of what works and what doesn't.
yeah, and I would say just have it be like an in between season kind of thing, because I don't think we
Mm,
need to wrap it into a season. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh,
there's
this is
so
the
much
season
we
of
can
horror. Let's
discuss.
talk about the video game movies of horror and yada yada. I don't
Hey,
think we
audience, what
need
do you think
that.
of that? I actually think that's great, and that's a perfect thing in our
Mhm.
break between season after we finish season one. That'll be the perfect little thing to throw out before season
Um,
two drops.
I like that idea.
because there's a lot of differences between a video game movie like this, wherein and this will be something I think y'all can kind of like brew upon, wherein people who go into the movies to see a video game movie, one thing they need to remember is that playing the video game, as in controller doing the thing, and experiencing it, right, is one thing. But when you're watching a movie, you're active in a different way in engaging with the story,
Yes.
but you're passive in a way that's important to the video game aspect of the experience.
And that's so critical. Yeah.
So I want to leave it
Let's
there
table that for
because
another discussion.
I think I've said all that needs to be said about this movie. And I hope that we clip the entirety of the Tom Hopper thing when E took a break, because I want to post that up on YouTube, and I want to post it to Tom Hopper, and I want to post it to.
I think for that we're gonna have to manually clip that out because it's longer.
Yeah,
That's all right.
will.
We're
Actually, no,
saving.
actually,
We'll
wait.
save the VODs now.
Actually, wait.
And I want to
YouTube. We can actually clip it from the YouTube clips and do it that way. Once we put the VOD on YouTube, we can do it that way because YouTube clips allow longer clips.
And I want to also post it to who is it that owns Resident Evil the movies?
Oh,
Constantine.
Constantine Films.
Them.
Yeah.
We tagged them
Unless
in it.
the rights are transferred, but I don't think they have.
We tagged them in it. We tagged Tom Hopper in it, and we say, "Look, we saw this movie, and here's our clip. Tom Hopper for Barry, right?
Yes.
Like with the hashtags of things like Justice for Barry,
Yes,
Hopper, Tom Barry, whatever, right? Like we do that, and we
bring back Barry.
We grassroots a young Barry movie.
I love it.
And our stipulation is no Johannes Roberts.
Okay, there's something I do have to ask. There's something I have to ask, and it's been bouncing around in my head for like 45 minutes now.
Okay.
Okay, the change to Wesker and this whole thing of combining them into two movies and all the shit that has to be done for that. One of the things that is stand out to me as a core part of the original Resident Evil story, Resident Evil 1, is the revelation that Wesker has betrayed the team from the very start. That Wesker has been part of bringing them in here basically as an experiment of his own to test against this shit, and particularly anyone who makes it to the end to test against the Tyrant.
And he's already planning to go rogue in the first game.
Exactly. And so by changing Wesker's relation, like by making him a random schmuck who's just one of the team, you remove that dynamic and the sense of betrayal and what that says about the people involved in this. Like there is a distinct narrative lost, and I think this reflects the fact that, like, listen, I don't know, Roberts, if you ever hear this, folks, I don't know to what degree of a fan Roberts is, but when I watched this movie back in 2023, I came away feeling like this was a really hollow thing. It was a lot of superficiality, and even I think tonight has reinforced that. This discussion has reinforced that Robert's take on what Resident Evil is and is not is a very superficial, surface level take of this stuff. Like Liz, you pointing at, like, when I mentioned all the monsters they wanted to add in that would have just ballooned things, and like how do you even fit them in? It's all flash, it's all surface. It's not none of the depth. Now I'm not saying Resident Evil's the deepest video game out there. I know this is popcorn horror. I know this is fucking popcorn horror here. But there's shit in here that kind of just gets
well, it's got a staying
Roberts.
power for something.
Yeah. And so it's like, it feels like we kind of Miles, don't eat that, sweetheart. I don't even know what you're trying to eat. Stop. No, no. Get away from. He has found the twist tie on the floor. Hold on. Okay, I have secured the twist tie from the cat.
Yes, don't let the cat eat the twist tie.
No, he's being in a mood.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a Tanuki, a grumpy Tanuki. Everything looks like Tanukis to me. I
I've got
wonder
a
why.
potato on the floor behind me.
Oh yay.
What were you saying, though?
Oh god,
Yeah.
but
Before
like
Miles interrupted.
it's like just the superficiality of it all. It's just especially as a creative, like how do you reach this level where you are making films, but all you kind of make is slapdash, flash in the pan superficiality? What it's like? Okay, Dave, you've just come off of this. I have a question for you. My memories are 2 years old of this movie at this
Yeah.
point. What the fuck is this movie trying to say? What the fuck is this movie trying to say?
It, if you want my opinion on that, this movie is not trying to say anything.
Mhm.
This movie has no message. It has no theme. It has no subtext. It has no text, really. I don't know how Johannes got Konstantin to shell out 40 million, let alone 25 million dollars to make this movie. And it makes me think that if I were to come to them with a script, and even though I don't have much in the way of credentials directing things,
Mhm.
I feel like I could do a much better job.
Yeah.
So TLDR, this movie has no message other than fuck you.
I have one thought of the message that E's heard me say.
Mhm.
Which is a certain writer director wants to bone Claire.
Yeah.
I mean, but is that really a
It's not a
message, or
I'm
is
not
that
saying it's a good
is that creepy?
It's both. It's the only thing I could take away from the film
Oh
and
right.
any kind of thing.
I
But it's
forgot.
not saying a lofty message. It's just like, well, someone has a thing for this character, and there's
Also,
I
nothing
mean,
wrong with that. But
also like okay,
I
one thing I'd also forgotten about this. Okay, so Dave, coming off of this now, you like
yep,
John Carpenter films, right?
yeah,
You've seen Halloween?
yep.
Have you seen Assault on Precinct 13?
I haven't.
Okay, have you seen The Fog?
No.
Okay, this will fall a little flatter than I had hoped then. But
Sorry.
up Roberts is on record apparently as saying that he was inspired by John Carpenter for this movie, in quote, including Halloween, Assault on Precinct 13, and The Fog. Now I have recently
What?
seen The Fog. Back when we did our podcast on Halloween. By the way, folks, go check that out. It's a fun episode. It's fantastic. And it was fantastic to do and to marathon those 6 movies in like 2 nights to
And
get
it's
that
still
done.
Halloween somewhere.
Yes, it's still Halloween somewhere.
yeah,
West Coast, you
it's
got
still
time.
Halloween for me.
Yeah.
It's still Halloween for me.
I can hear the
I'm not
turkeys
planning on
gobbling from
watching it.
here, unfortunately. They're coming and they're angry. God
Turkey
save us
hunting.
all. Now the turkeys are hunting. But it's
You
like
know
I've
what?
seen The Fog.
Spooky season doesn't end until like Thanksgiving week, as far as
That's
I'm
true.
concerned.
That is also true. And so I've seen The Fog. That movie is like it's not the deepest thing, but there is a tone and a style, and like there's an actual fucking message in that about the
Yeah.
way like the powerful fuck over the less powerful and exploit them. Like okay. I'm gonna spoil The Fog a bit here. The Fog is about a supernatural fog that rolls in full of ghosts from this sunk ship of a leper colony that was seeking to establish like seeking a new home in the area where the film is taking place, and shelled out like a whole lot of gold for it. And then the founders of the town that were like, yeah, sure, well, you can come here and live here, lepers. Yeah, they purposely misdirected them so their boat would crash and run aground and sink and drown all the lepers on board, and then they used all the money
Pillaged the gold.
They pillaged the gold and founded the town on the pillaged gold.
And then shit ensues
Oh,
because
yeah.
they did evil things.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I mean, even Halloween is like, even evil can come for good people. If you were going to boil it down to anything, it's that bad things can happen to anybody.
Well, I know that John Carpenter made his own music, so he didn't have to pay a ton of money to Journey and Four Non Blondes.
And he still had, and he
Time
managed to
traveling
make an
for Four
iconic music
Non-Blondes,
thing.
John
So I think he also, on his side, was also, has some musician skills there.
Oh,
yeah. But my point is that I don't see the influence that Roberts claims at all.
I'm not seeing it
so
either.
it's like, yeah, I mean, and that ties into what I was saying before. It's just so much superficiality. It's like, for me, like, the only thing from what I remember of this movie and from everything we talked about tonight and The Fog is we have different groups of characters split across different locations. There's your Fog connection.
That to
It's
me
like,
is that to me is somebody fun. To me, it just speaks to a fundamental lacking of how to tell a story,
yeah.
and specifically how to tell a story, one for film, but really just understanding what makes a narrative.
Yeah.
And why it matters even when you're adapting a game, and how narrative changes when you go from the medium of a game to a movie. The same way, and not that narrative structure changes. Narrative structure is universal. But it's the same way, like Dave, you mentioned that this would have, certain things better as a series, that certain narratives don't work in isolation of a film, because if you want to tell everything that you want to tell, then you need a longer medium in order to tell it. The number of times like Disney's cranked out a show that you find out, oh, that was originally planned as a movie. Well, no wonder the show felt slow as fuck. Because they really weren't readjusting how do we tell the narrative now in a new format. That means we get maybe 60 minutes to an episode and we want to do 10 episodes. Narrative structure stays the same, but how you approach it across mediums under the constraints of those mediums changes what becomes critical to the narrative, to your core story. And if you can continue to retain the core, then you can change. If you can stay focused on your core narrative, the truest, the most basic core narrative, if you can manage to preserve that, in a lot of ways, you manage to still preserve the integrity of the story across mediums. I see that a little bit, without going into details behind it, of Jurassic Park. The book has some hugely dramatic differences from the movie. Like, there are some massively dramatic differences, in terms of who's good, who's evil, characters, some of that. But the core, but it's still like, scientists go to island, dinosaurs, this, because at the core narrative, it's still, they thought they could control what they did, and they played with fire and they got burned, and you can't control. Well, funny thing, that's the same narrative at the core of the movie, which is why, for me, both of them, they're still telling the same core narrative. But the book has way more time to tell the story much more in depth and much more explore into these things, whereas the movie, they had 2 hours. So you can't spend as much time on long rants and monologues. Which, by the way, Malcolm has a ton of those in the book.
It's like, there is I felt for years there has been, I mean, in America, for the, like, especially in our generation, and I think our generation saw this transition over with the advent of, like, prestige TV becoming more and more of a thing. But there is still this notion of cinema, of the movie as the premier art form, like the most pure art form. And there's an extent to which I think anyone adapting things goes, if I'm going to make an adaptation of this, I need to make it a movie. Because movies are the truest form of story. And I mean, that is a fallacy. I will say right now, that is a fallacy, but I think that is a fallacy that a lot of directors believe in, that a lot of producers believe in, that a lot of executives believe in. And it just does not work for so many story formats, including a lot of the things that get adapted, be they books, be they games, etc., etc. There's just
Mm-hmm.
not a lot you can fit into a 2 to 3 hour. Like, actually, looking at the time that Dave had tonight, that's like an hour 38 minutes. That's like just barely over an hour and a half.
And that
I mean, look,
includes introducing all the companies involved in the story in the
Yeah.
very beginning.
And then
yeah. Well, I
on
mean,
top
look
of
at
that,
like how much
Mhm.
like Game of Thrones that book series, A
Yeah.
Song of Ice and Fire, gets gutted, and that's in a
Mhm.
show where an 8 season series where each season is 10 episodes and they're each an hour long,
Yeah.
and you still gut a shit ton of content out.
Mhm.
Yep.
And so it's like, and the other thing about it is, and I think this goes back to the superficiality of it. You got a lot of directors, and I feel Robert is it Roberts or Robertson? I'm already forgetting.
Roberts.
Roberts.
Roberts. There's a lot of directors out there who confuse plot and as story, who think story
Yeah.
is just a sequence of a sequence of events that happen that you tell. But story's more than that. Story is more than plot. And
Yeah.
this just really fails at that.
It's just sad because I feel like there's so much potential within Resident Evil. No, is the first game's like going all the way back to the original first game. Is it super deep? No, but it has a narrative. It has a story there,
Yeah.
you know,
And it's like
and it sticks to it.
to
And
tie this. Oh,
you know what? And I love seeing how they further like in the remakes I love seeing that the remakes have kind of strived further into
mhm.
saying, "Hey, there really is a narrative element
Yeah.
here, and we're going to lean into that more."
I know we were skipping cutscenes tonight because of the race aspect of this, like the dueling Resident Evils, who can get in along faster. So we do lose dialogue. We do lose a little bit of plot as
Sounds
the
like my
way.
experience.
But playing through these, like, there's still so much story being told from. I obviously, Liz, I couldn't pay attention as much to your end of things, so you can speak to that. But obviously, you can speak to that better than I can. But like playing through what we did tonight with Resident Evil, too, like, I'm getting story from the atmosphere. I'm getting story like from the documents that are scattered throughout this place. There was a document that I found that was like, this guy's basically lost as everything's gone to hell. This guy's lost it, and he's locked his superior officers in a cell up in the
Guy,
attic, and
that
he's like,
dick.
yeah, these corporate bastards, I'm finally they're gonna get theirs now.
Yeah,
Oh man,
that
and
dick who's just like, fuck everyone, I'm killing y'all.
but also like the details in it, like the little character details of like, I need to get some music. It's like, it's just a throwaway little detail, but it tells you so much about the character of this guy who's doing it. Another document that's like, listen, blah 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 blah. I got I gotta go do my duty and event. I know I'm gonna die, but I'm gonna go avenge my friends who've died to this shit. And like, and then of course, like, when you open, uh like when you've got the thing for the welcome note for Leon, even as Claire, it's like there's a little addendum there at the end, like in between drops of blood, of what's the phrasing of it, like, be glad you're not here, man. It's like that
Yeah.
tells you so much. Not just like, these aren't just little, cast away little bits of flavor. Like, you get emotion about who these people are or were. It's like, oh, like, they don't even know that this dude. They've maybe talked for maybe a couple hours max, getting ready to welcome him and prep for him to come do his first day here in Raccoon City. But they're already like, oh, just be glad you're not here. This is hell.
Yep.
I'm so glad you did not get pulled into this with the rest of us. And so it's like, story is just so much more than a sequence of events that happen on a screen or on a page. It's
Mhm.
character, it's emotion, it's feeling. And like, again, 2 years since I've seen this thing, I just didn't get that out of this. It just seemed like it was interested in the shocks. It was interested in being a little in your face about things. It was interested in seeming cool and slick. And it told me almost nothing about what these characters are.
Like I said, it guts the heart of Resident Evil in favor
Mhm.
of nostalgia, which to me, the heart of Resident Evil is the characters in the story.
Yeah.
You know, people will talk about iconic moments that scared them, but when you hear them talking about what they love about Resident Evil, more often it's enjoying the characters.
Yeah.
You know. On that note, though, I heard I heard a very expressive cat back there. E.
Yeah, he's been circling me like a shark, guys.
He definitely is getting chatty. On that note, I think, folks, we probably should end things here. I certainly have he's sleeping, but as soon as I move, he's gonna be like, Mom, you're awake. So
Yeah,
I have a potato here. I also need to feed myself.
that would be good.
I've had alcohol and semi-water beverage tonight. I should probably have something substantial now.
Drink water.
I did drink
Yeah.
a water beverage. I was drinking sparkling water for the latter
And
part
I'm
of
going to
this.
be meeting my fiance in the morning.
Okay.
Very nice, very nice. I'm taking my dog to the vet in the morning. Nothing bad, folks. He
Wow.
just gets a routine injection every month.
Yep.
So
He's old.
folks,
He's got to get those arthritises in.
yeah. Folks, if you liked what you saw here, please follow and subscribe for more. We don't stream as often on here, but we do try to drop in here. But if you really want to catch the regular thing,
Oh yeah, let me
then
drop the
you
card
should,
in.
yeah, drop the card in. You should
I'm
also
getting that right
take a
now.
look at our podcast. We are up on YouTube, The Confabulators. You can find us on YouTube you can search The Confabulators on your preferred podcast app, unless it's Pandora, because we're not on Pandora. Too much red tape to go through. So, but iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, we are up there. We post every other week. We are
that went
coming
big.
up on we're coming up on the last few, as we're coming up towards this last portion of the year. We are going to be finishing off our last episodes for our season focused on horror. So,
It's exciting.
still got some time. So, do encourage you all to listen, subscribe, follow, also rate and review for the podcast. We'd love to hear more from you all. And in the meantime,
please
also
email us. We would like to read your stuff.
Yes, and also in the meantime, folks, we are all streamers here. E has placed up our little card so you can get
technically, oh no, ow, hey, sweetheart, no, scratchy. The card I put up was the Confabulators one, so I haven't. Let's see. Let me just.
You will be putting up that other card, but yes, follow the Confabulators. E is getting assisted by cats.
Actually, I don't have that card on here at the moment. That's on the other hard drive. So, So we'll just leave the Confabulation Station one up for now. Yay, professionalism. Yep. Sorry about that, guys.
I'll leave it in the chat too, folks.
Yay.
You can follow all of our Twitch streams. E at Lancelencia, Sheriff_Flynn, or no, is it just Sheriff Flynn?
Yep. No, it's underscore.
It's underscore for Twitch.
Flynn. And then myself, Lady Hyacinth 57. We are all on Twitch. Please follow and subscribe. Except that my Twitch is not letting me leave comments, so apparently my chat is broken.
Oh no.
It happens.
It's on my phone. It's just the app.
Yeah, until next time, if you don't know what a confabulator is, don't ask Johannes Roberts. He'll misdirect you. Ask Tom Hopper.
Ask Tom Hopper. Tom Hopper's gonna be like, "The fuck is everybody asking me what a confabulator?"
I hope he's a genuinely nice person with all we've puffed him up and not like a jerk. We're rolling the dice on you, Tom. Please don't disappoint. Yes,
we got our eye on you.
We've been the Confabulators.
Don't jump from
folks,
there.
You're amazing. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, folks.
I'd bring up the potato, but the potato is sleeping.
And before we're just gonna bring it down and then come back up just real quick to send out a little raid, folks. All right, folks.
Halloween.
This is good night
Halloween.
for now. So, raiding now and ending the stream.
Later.
Later.
The Confabulators is hosted by Liz Strauss and Dave Bockenkamp. Editor is E.W. Klein. Theme music, Oh Heavens, is by Cassidy B., composer and artist. Found at cbrva.cardd.co.